should just begin.
Perfect. So
Looks like it's all good. If anything happens, if you hear it go teet teet, shouldn't. But
Okay.
you know, just
So it's recording now?
It's
because
recording
it's
now.
counting? All right.
Is it on the
yes, please. You're good at this. All right. So we're going to do a couple of anchoring exercises to really have us understand anchoring. And as Casey had explained before, really the idea is association. We associate by nature. This is how we do things, right? And many of you here are mothers or have taken care of kids, and we all understand that comforting touch, right? And because I know that Marquette is a hypnotherapist, I already know that this little movement here, you know, has a bit of a deepening sense to it, all right? But you can have all sorts of different touches. So first we're going to do, first I'd like to explain that anchoring isn't always touching, all right? You can anchor any one sense to any other sense or any other thought or feeling, right? And what you're really aiming to do is initiate a state, a specific state. So we have resourceful states, which are good, they give you what you want, and we have unresourceful states, all right? That don't really always end up with what you want, okay? First thing we're going to do is just eliciting states and practicing eliciting states. So how you would be practicing in this, and I'm sure you already know how to do this, but might as well go again for camera, right? So basically, it's all about the questions you ask. So Marquetta, do you remember, do you have a state that you think is a really positive, really great state? Something you'd like to play with today?
The feeling of peace.
The feeling of peace. Okay, okay. And do you have somewhere in your history where you've had this feeling of peace that you're talking about? Okay, cool. So we've elicited the meaning on what it is. Now I just go, please close your eyes and go back to that last time you had this feeling of peace. And what you're aiming to do is to anchor, to touch the same spot, just when you're at that feeling of peace. So you use all your sensory acuity, you watch for that feeling of peace, and when you feel she's got it, sure, right? Be there. That's right. See it. Good. Hear it. That's right. And just feel it. Good. Open your eyes. So the first part is just eliciting. I did it a little differently. I did a couple of anchors at the same time. Rinse, lather, repeat is really a very good way to actually elicit places. And then breaking state. Obviously, you're still in a bit of state. What day of the week is it?
Friday.
Friday, good. It's another way to break state. Just ask anything randomly outside or have them direct their attention here and there, right? And then I go to test the state that I've just anchored. I've set the anchor. I remember where I touch, how I touched, the pressure, sort of. Okay, pressure is not that important, but it can be used if you use it correctly. And then I just test to see that same body language, those same feelings of peace to go, right? Great. Okay, good. So now I know that that has been set, that first anchor of a peaceful resource state. And what we're going to do first is adding the resource state, like Casey had done with Mira before. Okay. So can you think of any time where you've had this peaceful resource state, and it helped you really achieve something? Now, you don't have to tell me what it is, but it really just this peaceful state helped you achieve something really well. So go back to that time and just suppose there were another feeling that you could add to this situation, something that would have just given you that extra bang for your buck, whatever that may be. Can you give me another feeling you would have added to it?
I would say confidence.
Confidence.
Mm-hmm.
So confidence and peacefulness together would have given you something good. Cool. So now we're going to just pick another spot in the body, right, and anchor that feeling. Once again, it's just touch that. And for me, the best way to get a feeling is remember the last time. So close your eyes and just go back to the last time or one of the best times. You're just totally confident, perfectly confident, absolutely confident. See it, hear it, Feel it, that's right, be there. Good. Just notice all the things that happened and how well they happened. Excellent. Good. That last time you were totally confident, absolutely confident, perfectly confident, and it worked so well. That's right. Good. Confident, absolutely confident. Good. All right, so open your eyes, close your eyes, open your eyes. How can I break your state today? Like that. That's a confusion breaking her state. All right. So now we go back to that initial peaceful moment. All right. So in a moment, I'll ask you to close your eyes in just a moment and go back to that peaceful state. Right. And we'll bring in the confident state as well. We'll integrate them together in that same moment. Right. That's the part where we'll be firing off both anchors at the same time. The way to do it is to initiate the peaceful state. So I'll actually touch her and just have her go into that peaceful state. And when I know she's in that peaceful state using sensory acuity, right, I'm just going to add my second anchor and hold it. Now, there's nothing wrong with actually telling your clients, your participants, your subjects, what you want from them, right? Because you will use your voice to increase all those feelings as well, make it higher. Right? Okay, so take a deep breath. Close your eyes. And just go back to that peaceful feeling, that peaceful situation, that place, that's right, where peacefulness worked perfectly for you. Good. And just in your mind, bring in a bit of confidence, that same confidence, that total confidence, absolute confidence, that's right. Good. And just notice how much better it is. Totally peaceful, absolutely confident. Absolutely peaceful, totally confident. Good. Just enjoy those feelings for a moment. Notice how much better you can do that there then. Good. Open your eyes. Close your eyes. Open your eyes, look at me. I'm pretty. Thank you. Right? Breaking state is really important as part of this exercise, but more important is testing, right? Testing, just for those feelings, noticing what peaceful looks like for your subject, right? What confident looks like for your subject, and when integrating them, noticing what that looks like, okay? And then part of testing is another concept known as future pacing, okay? So, Marquetta, just imagine sometime in the future, perhaps even just in a bit when you're about to practice your anchoring, right? Right. So close your eyes and just envisage this next part in the future. Good. Feeling peaceful in every way. Totally peaceful, absolutely peaceful. Good. And just adding that confidence right there, that total, absolute confidence. Excellent. I'm just going through that whole situation, that whole practice, doing it so well and so much better. Good. When you know you've got it, you can open your eyes. All right. Feeling good?
Yes.
So that was a very simple demonstration of anchoring and how to take one good resourceful state and add another resourceful state. So we have a couple of pointers. First, we elicit, and elicit is just having a bit of a chat, just to figure out, have you felt like this before? Go back to that point, and you anchor. Now, you don't necessarily have to make them close their eyes to start anchoring. You can start anchoring at any stage, just when talking about it, so you remember that last time you were feeling peaceful, okay? Now, states. So, I've been prompted to explain states better. Thank you. A state is a state of being. It's an emotional state, right? It's a polarization. Really, what it means is it's a feeling in your body, and it's a way of thinking. And they do come together. Once again, we did have a bit of a discussion of the chicken and the egg. For me, it's the chicken and the omelet, right? You can decide to think about it however you want to think about it, whether it's your thoughts preceding your feelings or your feelings preceding your thoughts. They do tend to come together. When you feel a certain way, you think a certain way. When you think a certain way, you feel a certain way. And that's known as a state. It's the whole of the idea, okay? How you are at the moment, okay? And states are related to moods, okay? There's other ways to talk about this. You can say mood, you can say state, but a state is much more pervasive. It's much more whole than a mood is, okay? So we've gone through the first exercise of just integrating or, adding a resource to a resource, okay? For the next exercise here, we're going to have chaining anchors or collapsing anchors. I would like to go with Marketa first because it's very obvious with her. She's very expressive and it's easy to see. And then we'll ask for another volunteer to see possibly another way of using chaining anchors to go from one place in your life to another place within the moment. Okay? So
volunteer for that one.
we'll choose a volunteer for that.
I'm going to choose the volunteer.
Oh, you'll choose a volunteer for that one. Good. All right. So for this part of the exercise, I like to use the knuckles. Actually, I just recently learned to use the knuckles rather than, going different body parts. You can choose any body part, whatever is comfortable for you. So starting there and going there. And just notice that body changing, right? Feeling good, peaceful, and confident, right? But for the next part, which is collapsing or chaining anchors, we want to take someone from one place to another place through a couple of different feelings, right? We can start from a positive, go to a bit more positive, and go even more positive, or we can start negative, go positive, or go intermediate and then go positive. The classical example, if you go on YouTube and check this out, usually you'll find procrastination is what they talk about, right? From procrastination to an intermediate state somewhere, whether it be a positive intermediate state like motivation, the end one is motivation, a positive like curiosity, or even a negative state, so irritation, frustration. Now, personal caveat, I don't like to go through the negative states, there's no point, but for some people that's how it works, right? I've been procrastinating for a while, it pisses me off, and then I get motivated, right? But for now, would you like to work on a positive state, make it more positive, or would you like to work on something from negative to positive? You get to pick.
No. Positive to more positive.
Positive to more positive. Good. So can you give me a couple of words, just help me understand what we're talking about here. Give me a positive situation that you'd like to make more positive.
Positive situation. Okay. I used to procrastinate because of fear and other things. I'm already now, the motivation is there, the creativity is there.
Motivation, creativity.
I combined my confidence and peace, which is another wonderful state. I just want to be able to really take charge into using that creativity and that.
So as you take charge in using that creativity, where would you apply this specifically? To this creativity and taking charge of this creativity?
In what I already do, I want to start on my own.
Okay.
I want to take hypnotherapy, Reiki, conduct workshops, start training on this field also in future for myself.
So as you take this motivation that's already in there, you just move it on into taking charge of it, moving on by yourself, using the hypnotherapy, the Reiki. What would that do for you?
It would make me feel, it would make me feel that I am doing something that is useful to the world. It's useful to me because it gives me satisfaction. It fills me with love. It just feels that I would feel that I found the place where I actually need to be.
Okay.
Because I know that.
So you want to go from where you are to where you can be, that satisfaction and love and where you want to be.
Yes.
Okay, very good. So for this little exercise, I like to use knuckles. So I'm going to need your knuckles nice and bare for me. And it's a good way to do this because you have 4 of these knuckles and it's really easy to transition from one to the other. You'd be holding one anchor, the original state, adding to it the next anchor, all right? And then moving on to that third final anchor, okay? Or fourth, or fifth, but we're going to go with 3 for now because it's simpler to demonstrate. Okay, cool. So close your eyes. And just think of all the stuff you already know. That hypnotherapy, Reiki, all the things that are already great. You've already moved so far from procrastination to motivation. You're doing well. In fact, I'll cheat a little bit and I'll start off a bit of an anchor here. Just to go there, to add the peace and confidence already. Good. Excellent. Right. So back to that state of things you already know. Now I'm going to just wait for her. Go there, see it, hear it, feel it. That's right. Be there in every way. Good. Open your eyes. Close your eyes. Open your eyes. Pick someone to look at, and then look at me. Breaking state, once again, is very important so that then we can test, right? So close your eyes. I'm just going back there now. Now it's very obvious with her. You can see her smiles, you can see her body changing. What you want to do is release that anchor once she's starting to shave off. She's there, right? You just want to get it at its peak, keep holding while it's peaking, right? And then you have a nice little trick you can always just test. There we go. Right? Very easily you can see that it just triggers her again, or firing that anchor. Good. Open your eyes. And close your eyes. Good. So back into that resource state now. What you already know, what you already do so well. And peaceful confidence. Confident peacefulness. Good. And then, bring that all together now. Being able to take charge. Just remember the last time you've taken charge. And done it so well. Started doing things. You were a procrastinator at one point, but now all motivated. Good. Open your eyes. What day of the week is it?
Friday.
Close your eyes. You're doing well. So we started with the first anchor, moved her on to the second anchor. You know, we've moved from good to better, taking charge, the next thing she wants. Okay? And then being there, right? Just notice her. I know I'm pretty, but look at her. And taking charge. And with taking charge. Going somewhere new, somewhere better. Satisfaction, love. That's right. See it, hear it, feel it, stronger. If the color is bright, you already know what you're doing. You can do it better. Good. Open your eyes. Notice how you feel. Wonderful. Right. So, what we want to do here is why I use the knuckles is because you can play it like a piano at this stage, right? You can keep one anchor while holding the next anchor, while going the next anchor, and then release, 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 right? And so future pacing now, okay? We test and we future pace. Future pacing is a way of testing, but you know, it's a plus plus, right, to testing. So close your eyes. See, in a few moments, you're going to be demoing or practicing this technique and many others with your colleagues here. Good. And you already know where you're starting. That next step, taking that charge. Good. Where you can be. releasing that first anchor, releasing that second anchor, and just leaving satisfaction and love as a natural process from A to C, like this. Good. Open your eyes. 5 plus 5. Oh, that was done peacefully and confidently. All right? So what would happen is naturally now, just firing off that first anchor would naturally take her through that process, that chain of anchors, that chain of states, to that next anchor, right? To that satisfaction and love place. Okay? All right? Want to test it? You want to fire yourself off? Good. Use your finger. All right, close your eyes. Fire off that first anchor. And just notice it change on its own. That's right. When you know you've got it, you can open your eyes. Ready to go? So a couple of things I did, which was a little bit of a cheat here, because we started with adding a resource to a resource. So we went with peace and confidence to begin with, and then I anchored that onto the knuckle. Right? That starting point, added that as well. Okay? And then we went from peace, confidence, and everything you know already, right? To that next step, taking charge, right? And then almost naturally, even before I get to anchor it, satisfaction and love. Okay? So the idea is to go from one, transition into the other, transition into another. Okay? Because these are 3 positive states, I hold the first anchor, I hold the second anchor, I hold the third anchor. Okay? We're going to do another demonstration now of going from a negative state to a positive state. It's done a little differently. Okay? You transition from one state into another. So, we want another volunteer. Casey was so kind as to pick one for us. Hello, Kate.
Also, I think it's important here to explain association and disassociation. Yeah?
Yeah.
Because this is what's going to happen now.
Yeah, very
Okay.
good. So, Kate.
Thank you, Marcetta.
Thank you.
Get out of your chair. There you go. No, the way I want
How are you today?
Do any of you have any questions about that exercise that just happened?
Yeah,
or
let's
any
start
comments?
with comments.
So does it work for everyone? Like, for example, I know people, and sometimes even me, I can't imagine. I just can't imagine. So if we can't imagine or
Can you imagine not being able to imagine?
No, I mean, not everyone can just close their eyes and imagine things. So,
I have an answer for you, which may turn into a philosophical debate, but the idea is the difference between visualizing and imagining, okay? So the fact that you have your 5 senses means really it's a bit unreasonable for you to say I can't imagine or I can't visualize. However, okay, you would learn how to say that differently. So imagine or visualize, picture, or even just pretend. So if you could pretend, you can imagine, right? You can just act this out and pretend you can imagine. Okay, it's like if you can imagine a pizza in front of you right now. How big would that pizza be? Show me with your hands. Right? There's tricks and caveats to getting people to do what you want them to do, and just sidetracking the debate part, because it would just be a debate otherwise. Yes, I can. No, I can't. Yada yada. No, you're right. You're wrong. It's my body. La 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 la. Right? You can't tell me what to do. Right? So instead of doing that, you just move around. So if you would be able to imagine, what would you imagine? How big would it be? Show me with your hands. Okay.
can you do it yourself?
What does that mean?
I mean, can you do it yourself?
Yes, one of the great methods of using this is self-anchoring. I always like to bring Tony Robbins into it because he does it so obviously on stage. Okay, he has his self-anchors. When you're an NLPer, you learn to self-anchor.
I have it on video to show them.
Yeah. Oh,
The
okay.
6. That,
Yep, that one, and a bit of a jump as well for his next
Yeah.
one, right? He has a couple of self-anchors that take him from one place to another. Now, moving on, anchoring will be more than just personal and more than just this, because when you're on stage, you could do another thing. You can anchor your position on stage to certain stories, right? The past, the present, the future, the good, the bad, the ugly. Of course, why would you go for that? I mean, you know, the bad, the next state, all right, and then the better state. So we're going to go with a negative state here, and we're going to first, before thinking of a negative state, what I want you to do is just imagine, all right, or pretend you're looking at yourself from my eyes here, okay? And just as you imagine you're looking at myself from my eyes here, or perhaps even as you're imagining yourself on a screen, right? Good, good. Dissociating coming out of that picture. Right. Good. So before we continue, what we do is we'll explain the difference between dissociated and associated. All right. It's a way of describing how we think of things. All right. When we're associated in a memory, in a thought, in an idea, we're feeling it, we're in it. In the moment, we're connected to it. Okay, it's being in the picture. Right. Whereas when we're dissociated, we tend to see ourselves as outside of the picture. In memories, it's really easy to explain. Sometimes we remember things and we see things through our own eyes. We see our hands, we see our feet. That's being in the picture. And other times you imagine yourself at a time when you were younger and you're outside the picture. You can see yourself over there doing something, or over there, over there, over there. It doesn't matter much, but you see yourself dissociated from the picture. Now the theory is associated thoughts and perspectives and memories have stronger feelings to them because you're in them. Dissociated, not so much. You're able to detach from the idea.
You're more an observer.
You're more of an observer rather than a participant in. Okay? So, once again, just going for that place where you can just dissociate. Imagine yourself seeing yourself from my eyes, or perhaps even on the cinema screen over here. Yeah, good. Excellent. What we want to do is we want to anchor that first position of dissociation. Because dissociation is a very good way to move from being in a bad memory, in a bad state, to a positive state, right? Because you already know this, when you're in a bad state, you're much more likely to pay attention to things that make you feel worse, right? And when you're in a good state, you're much more likely to find all the things that make you feel better about that same. And that's the whole idea of emotions, or at least in the NLP polarizing. Okay? Good. So, can you think of a really bad state that you were in at one stage? Something that you'd really like to just move out of? Okay? Good. So close your eyes. And just go back there. Good. See it, hear it, feel it. Alright, that's enough. Open your eyes. And close your eyes. And open your eyes. Good. Okay? And then we're going to pick a third position, right? To move on, right? So, of course, I didn't think of this very well. When you think of this really well, you make it easy to move in between positions, right? But I'm already stuck with what I chose. I'll make it work. NLPers are very flexible people, right? You just work with what you have, all right? So, can you think of a resource you can bring into that memory, to that place, right? A really good thing that you could do, something that would add pizzazz, that would take you out of it. An idea, a thought, a feeling, a quality, a perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah? Yeah? Yeah. Can you think of the last time you felt that way?
Yeah.
Yeah? Close your eyes. Yeah? That way, that feeling. Just go back there. Good. Remember the time, remember the place. See it, hear it, feel it. Good. Make sure everything's big, bright, and bold. That's right. Good. Breathe like you were breathing, stand like you were standing. Really associate into it. More, more, more. That's right. Good. Alright, open your eyes. And close your eyes. Good. So now I'm just going back to that. Ooh, yeah, that one over there. Right? Not so good. and just being able